Welcome to this episode of Fear Less, Do More. Today I'm going to be talking with Nicolina Andall. Now Nicolina I first came across when she was one of the panellists at our Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Conference in 2023, and I was just overwhelmed by her energy and her passion for all things to do with boards, business, diversity, the list goes on. She's Senior Corporate Counsel at Atlas Copco, but she has so many other roles and interests. I'm really looking forward to exploring some of those with her today. Hi Nicolina, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We're going to go straight into it. How does somebody who starts off in food tech end up as a lawyer?
I know. An amazing journey. When I was a teenager, I was really into three things. I was into food. I was a real foodie. I was really into science, really like my physics, my biology, my chemistry. I loved it. And I was really hooked on watching Crown Court. There used to be that old series. And I remember thinking, well, I still want to do sciences to degree level. Absolutely want to do that. I want to do a bit of this and a bit of that, and a bit of that, and a bit of this. And because I was into the food thing, that's how that all came out. But I was clear from day one that I wanted to be a lawyer. So on the first day when I sat speaking with my tutor, he goes, so where do you see yourself in 4 years' time when you finish this degree? I said, well, I'm going to law school. And he goes, you do realise you're signing up for a 4-year degree in food technology? It's like, yeah. And so said, so done. So said, so done.
And what do you think you learned doing something like a completely unrelated subject that you then could use in law?
Yeah, so the key elements of that degree was actually industrial engineering and applied microbiology. And when it came to actually being a lawyer, how do you stand out in a crowd of very clever law graduates? And I remember I applied for a paralegal job and they said, can you read flow diagrams? I said, of course I can read flow diagrams. I've been doing engineering for the last 4 years. And they said, right, fine, here you go. So I ended up doing a placement looking for an engineering company, which unsurprisingly led me to doing a training contract for a construction engineering company. And it's no surprise that I've ended up doing construction and engineering as a legal career for all of my career.
And you've had a blended career between sort of working in-house and working in private practice. You're in-house at the moment. What, for people who don't know about the law, what's the difference working in those two different environments?
So when you work in-house, you work for one client, you work for a company, or just one organisation. And it is very much, from my perspective, about being part of the business and actually helping the business to do business. And then you layer on a little bit of law around it, manage that legal risk, and then you move on to the next thing. So that's literally it. And I think it's a much more generalist role. When you're actually working in-house, you never know what's going to come across your desk. So even though most of us start out looking at commercial contracts, you're buying something, you're selling something, you're buying a company or whatever the case may be, but then all of a sudden you've got to look at the integration aspects, you've got to look at the corporate governance aspects, there might be a piece of real estate to go with it, as you know well. A piece of real estate, well, what are we going to do with it? Are we staying, are we leaving, are we dealing with dilapidations, is there a compensation payable? So all of a sudden you start looking at real estate. And then, of course, sometimes things go wrong. How do we deal with dispute resolution? And I think lots of people think, oh, we're all lawyers, we all just want to go to court. That is absolutely the last thing we want to be doing. So, how can you help to manage that situation? You might have a legal basis in respect of whatever your case may be, but that's just the basis. Most of the time you actually want to preserve your relationships with your customers and your clients. So it's about helping the business to go into those negotiations, knowing full well what your legal outcome might, your legal rights might be. But I agree, sometimes it's like, you just want to preserve the relationship. So it's about, from a legal aspect, preparing your business to go in, knowing what to say, what not to say, keeping things in the back of their mind, legal points to completely avoid and legal points to go for, but most of all, come out with something that's a good resolution for both parties.
Okay. And at the moment, you're in a role where you're working for a global company. And how many entities are there?
There are, in the UK, we have 28 statutory entities at the moment, I think think we might have just closed on 2 acquisitions, so that might have changed. I don't know. But yeah, 28 statutory entities in the UK, and globally we operate in over 170 countries. So it's a huge business.
So how do you manage all of that in your head? How do you, because there must be sort of competing views about how things should go from different cultures,
Yes.
different parts of the world. How do you manage that?
I think one of the good things that we have in our company is that we have a really great cohesive legal team. There's about only 35 lawyers or so to look after the whole of the global group, but we all get on really well. We're all incredibly commercially focused, and I think we are all very dovetailed into the culture of the organisation, which is always looking out for the best interests of our customers, always first in mind, first in choice. And so I think because we all kind of come from that background, we gel well. So if I've got an issue, I know that I can literally pick up the phone, Teams call, I can call anybody in the group and just ask them, can you give me a bit of a hand with this? And know that I'm going to get some really good commercial assistance. So I think we are hugely practical, very commercial, very sensible, very bright set of lawyers. And yes, I think you're right to touch on the cultural aspect as well, because we're Swedish, we're based out in Sweden, headquarters out of Sweden, very calm, very collected, very, don't want to rock the boat, whereby, we've some of our main plants when we manufacture, China, US and Belgium, 3 very different cultures, and you just kind of get used to it. You just get used to it. The Americans will always be the Americans, of course, right? And the Belgians will always be the Belgians, but you just get used to it. So I think it's about having really good relationships. And I think, just to touch on a point that I didn't quite finish from your last question about the difference between working in-house and in private practice. I think in private practice, where you've got a separate law firm, I think it's easier if you're just doing a straight transaction. Buy this, sell that.
Yeah.
Where they need to get more involved with the commercial aspects of the business, I think they find that a lot more challenging. Because, as clients, we don't want to spend money teaching you about our business, right? And unless you really understand the guts of that business, the risk appetite, it can be very difficult to be able to get to that stage where they are actually being able to deliver, something that's on point. They just can't, because they're not part of it. So I think that's one of the challenges. But I think certainly if you're going to an external law firm for a crisp piece of advice on something that's very crisp, and provided they are instructed well, which of course I do, it turns out really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that always frustrates me is that you hear lawyers saying all the time, we give commercial advice, we understand business, but when you scratch the surface, quite often a lot of these people have never been anywhere near a business.
Absolutely.
And I understand that, when people come through the standard law route, they might not have worked in a business before. Absolutely. But I think I find as a owner of a legal firm, it is my obligation to make sure that those people do.
Yes.
And have a hunger for that bit as well.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, being a lawyer is just it's just the tip of the iceberg. So, you have more external roles than most people have hot dinners in a week.
I actually agree with you. Yeah.
Out of all of them, which one is the one that you say, if I could do that one for the rest of my life, that's the one I would do?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Oh, that's a really tricky one. Okay. Can I kind of do 2? Can I choose 2?
All right, then.
Right?
Because it's you.
Yeah, thank you. So I do quite a lot of work in the public sector. I'm very committed to public service. And I'm currently, had to say all in one sentence really quickly, otherwise I get lost in the middle of it, a lay member of the London Recruitment Advisory Committee for the Lord Chancellor's Department.
Wow, what does that mean?
Right. Basically, I sit on selection panels and we make ministerial or judicial suggestions for suitable candidates for the magistracy. So not a lot of people know about what it means to be a magistrate. So we'd start talking about magistrates' courts. That's where people go. It's always the first port of call when somebody's going to court for a criminal matter. And the magistrates are the 3 people who sit on the bench and who will basically opine and come to a decision in respect of a charge. What most people don't realise is that magistrates are not lawyers. Most people assume that they are, but they are not. And the criteria to become a magistrate is literally you need to be 18 and be of good character and like, have the 5 attributes that we're looking for. And that's it. And it blows me away, right? That this is what the position is. But that's very much from the premise of the fact that people are to be judged by people, and that's why diversity is so important. So there's an accurate reflection on both sides of the bench. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So I've been doing it for about 4 years. And we do, eligibility, we do interviews, we do appeals, we do quorum, we do loads of things. And that I really love because as a panel member, I also sit as a panel of 3 as well. And we will go through and we will interview candidates. I have this saying, I believe in the power of the panel. I do believe that fairness and openness and transparency and that people are appointed on the basis of merit following that due process. And even I don't know who I'm going to be sitting with, but then you get to know people and then it's like, oh, this is great. Oh, fantastic. Oh, she's tough. Ouch. Oh my gosh. But I do believe that there's a great levelling process, and I do think that we do eventually select and make recommendations of the right candidates. So I think the magistracy is fascinating, and it's also great to see the opening diversity of it as well, of people coming forward. You get old, you get young, you get professionals, you get non-professionals, you get stay-at-home mums, and that is exactly the way it should be. So I really encourage people to do it if they haven't thought about it.
And what makes a good magistrate then? If somebody is sitting at home thinking, oh, that might be for me,
yes.
What would make a good magistrate?
A good magistrate is someone who will listen, preferably, if possible, without prejudice. And that, I say that in the nicest possible way, but we all have prejudices. We all have unconscious bias. But somebody who can actually listen, be very sensible, look at all the essential facts of the case, and then think, right, well, what is the right way forward in this matter? And that comes down to balancing up, what's happened, were there any aggravating factors, are there things that need to be taken into account? What is the best way forward for this person as well? It isn't necessarily just about sending people to prison, which they have the right to do. But it is just about looking holistically, what's right for, the offender, what's right for the victim, and what's right for our society. We want people who are going to be fair and the people who are going to be just. So that's people who can listen and they can be sensible and bring a whole load of common sense. Yeah. That's what we want, a load of common sense. So that's my first role, which I really, really enjoy. And the second role, I'm very big on non-executive directorships. I think it's really important, particularly as you get older, you've done your executive job for a long time, you've done C-suite. I think it's wonderful to be a non-exec where basically your role is to challenge and support the executive in respect of what they're doing. It's not to tell them what to do, it's to help, perhaps nudge them in a little direction.
Critical friend.
Critical friend. Yeah. Open up the mindset. Have you considered this? What would happen if you did that? I did the Financial Times Postgraduate Diploma for Non-Execs, and I'm now an expert speaker for the FT as well. Absolutely loved it. I didn't even know I'd love the course, did the course, loved the course, and I'm all things non-exec, and now I just try and encourage everybody to become a non-exec, because I think it really rounds out your understanding and it makes you into a better business person, let alone better lawyer. So after that, I was just so excited, and I said, I want to get some experience. I want to do something like this. But of course, I've never done it before, and I did a boardroom apprenticeship with a bank. I mean, construction engineering lawyer, going to a bank. And that was an absolutely amazing experience to be in a room surrounded by a load of bankers, who are very nice bankers, I will say. But, looking at liquidity, looking at risk, looking at the way in which we treat their customers, looking at, where's the growth areas, looking at the way how we're regulated, by the PRA. And just thinking, wow, my gosh, it was just amazing. And most of all, it was a brilliant chair whose role it was just to make sure that everybody had a voice in the room, that everybody, listening to the exco, listening to the non-execs, and just making sure that there was a balanced conversation throughout. And also working and being personally mentored by, I think, 4 or 5 absolutely outstanding non-execs. So those are the 2 things. Those are the 2 key things I think I do.
Just popping in to say, if you are enjoying the conversation so far and want to make sure you keep up to date with other episodes, then please hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. Let's jump back into the conversation now. So you have non-exec roles now. And I know they range from sort of being in fintech to all sorts of different things.
Yes.
Tell me about some of those and what you get out of those personally.
Yes. So after I'd done the bank, an opportunity arose for me to be a sort of baby Ned, I'd say. And they're a startup scale-up company, so I'm actually a boardroom observer for a fintech scale-up company. That's been amazing, largely because you can see just how agile a small company can be and how strategy can change so quickly and how they can really just shift into a different direction. So it's been fascinating to see their journey. I always get lost in how many I've got. But the other one that I do is because I'm very passionate about the advancement of women and the advancement of ethnic minorities as well. I am currently a director for International Women's Forum UK, which is a wonderful group, which is for senior women in business, largely in business, in society, very senior women in society. And it's about, our whole role is about the advancement of women and bringing on the next generation of women as well. That's been great. My key role at the moment is I chair the racial equity mentoring scheme, which is about linking them all together and then making sure it all goes really well. And that's been wonderful. We've changed so much as an organisation, but the sheer types of people you meet is just eye-opening. I remember when I joined, I just said, am I the only person who hasn't got an MBE or an OBE or a CBE? Maybe I should set up a committee so we can actually sort that out. That you really meet so many really senior women, and it is so wonderful to have them as role models because you start to go, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Yeah. And so that's been wonderful. And have I got... Oh, yes, and I forgot my Inspiring Diverse Leaders group.
I was going to say that, and that came out of lockdown, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I founded my group called Inspiring Diverse Leaders, which is there to encourage, support and showcase ethnic minorities in respect of being senior voices in the boardrooms of our society. And I say boardrooms, but I mean small b boardrooms. I don't care. I don't care if it's a charity. I don't care if it's a PLC. I don't care if it's in public sector. I think, and it was born out of lockdown because we had the whole George Floyd thing.
Yeah.
And I found that within my community, people went one of two ways. We had the pitchforks at dawn, right? And we're going to go out, we're going to march on the streets, you know, and there is a place for that. There truly is a place for that. Public outrage gets things noticed. But I do believe that for things to really change, we need to be in the boardrooms of our society. We need to have a seat at the table. And being a selection panel member, because I'm also an independent panel member for the Ministry of Justice and also Department for Transport, I find that there can often be a lot of complaints saying, oh, people don't want us in these roles, you know, we're not interested, they're not interested, it's a closed club. But as a panel member, I can only choose from the applications I have on the table. And if those applications aren't there, then what can I do? How do I affect change? So I went out to the community and I said, well, folks, you want to make change? Get yourself some board roles and choose whichever one you like. I want to hear your voices. I want to see you up there. And then people start saying, well, we don't know where the opportunities are. It's like, okay, well, they're over there. And then we've got a massive WhatsApp group. We've got about 250 people in there at the moment. It's popping every day. And it's like, here's an opportunity. What about this? You know, I've certainly got some recruitment consultants lined up who are going to be doing some webinars. In terms of support, we run webinars. This is how you do a CV, a board CV. This is how you do a personal statement. And I also do the in-conversations. So my view is, you can complain and say that no one's there. And I'm like, ta-da, here's one. Ta-da, here's another one. So, you know, I just find the most incredible people. You know, I mean, I've done circuit court judge. I've had heads of unions. I've had the former president of the Law Society.
Oh, right, yes.
You know, I just have all the published authors, just so many people to come and actually tell us, you know, not just about where they are now, but actually to hear about their journeys. And then realise that, hey, you know, if I can do it, you can do it.
I mean, I do believe you can only be what you can see.
100%.
And role modelling is brilliant. And I think the stage in our careers where we have to be those role models as well. But who has inspired you? So specific people who you have gone, that's what I want to be like. That I really love what they do.
Yeah, 3 people. I'll keep it brief. The first is my mother. She passed away a few years ago. But she's absolutely incredible. Being from the Windrush generation, to come here, you know, literally early 20s with nothing, just one bag, you know, with clothes that she's made from scraps, you know, at home. And then to come here, qualify as a nurse, be confident, you know, be fearless, being fearless and just pushing for it. She had an amazing career. She was so kind, and, you know, and number 2, my father, who also came over during Windrush. You know, he hasn't got a degree, but he became an aircraft engineer. He could fix an engine without an instruction booklet. He was so bright. And between them, they raised me to have very strong values, to be fearless, to be confident in myself, to have a huge amount of self-respect in myself, and to just really, you know, give me that energy that's like, you can do anything you like, just get on with it. Just get on with it and get it done, right? And so they were 2 of the most important people. My mum passed away. My father is now very, very ill. And, you know, it saddens me that they're on that journey. But then I feel, you know, if I can be half as good as they were, looking at their journey, then I will have done well. Very, very, very proud people, very confident people. You know, they did very well financially. And I'm just like, yeah, that's your role model.
Yeah.
And then the third one is a dear friend of mine. She, again, was from Windrush, didn't even understand Britain, didn't have a lot of support system here. And, you know, this last summer, she was appointed as a Dame. Brilliant. So that's Dame Neslin Watson-Drouet for her leadership in healthcare services. She's so kind, she's just so supportive and so lovely. And it's huge role models, and we have to walk in their footsteps.
Absolutely. I mean, we've made progress in things like board diversity, particularly around gender, but quite often not from an ethnic minority point of view.
That's correct.
Not from a sexuality point of view, not from a disability point of view. If you were advising a board who wanted to increase diversity, where would you say to start? Because I think that's part of the problem. People don't know where to start.
That's a very good question. I think it would be useful for them to actually speak to people in the know, people like myself. There's loads of senior ethnic minorities out there. And I think a good starting point is to talk to them and just find out, you know, what are the barriers? And certainly I've been involved in some of those conversations. And when they say, well, what can we do to increase the number of applicants? I'm like, well, try and recruit some, right? And then try and help them to go out there, because as you say, you can only become what you can see. So if you start demonstrating that you are truly committed to diversity within your organisation, and people can see it as they actually walk in, you know, or, you know, if you've got some brochures, etc. If they can see it, then it starts to change one's mind that it's not just sheer words or box ticking. It is actually something that is being demonstrated. But I think also in terms of improving the pipeline, I think if they really are that interested, they have to go out and speak to the interest groups. They have to do the outreach, absolutely, and go in and find out, have those conversations. So, I mean, it is a broad question, but I do think it is about engaging with those who are already in the know.
Over this period of doing all of these things, you've talked about your role models, but you will have also had some moments where you've just gone, I can't actually believe I'm doing this, or I'm sitting here, or I'm with this person.
Yeah, happens often.
Does it?
Yes,
Can you tell me about some of those?
It really happens often. I think particularly when I do the independent panel member work for the Ministry of Justice, that involves, again, sitting on selection committees, normally working with chairs or, you know, people who are leading out the organisation, and you sit together and then you have to choose people to be NEDs, SIDs, experts, you name it, right? I've even done judicial members of the parole board, and it's a whole panoply of people. And you might find yourself sitting next to some chair OBE or a right honourable, I'm not going to say who, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, right? How can I be sitting here and they're sitting there and we have equal voices at the table?
Yeah.
Now, of course, does that mean I'm special? The answer is yes. Of course I'm special, right? I don't do imposter syndrome anymore. I really don't. But it's been absolutely fantastic working with them and then recognising they're just human beings, exactly the same as me. They come with different experience, as do I. And so it's great to be in those situations and then get over yourself, right? And then you just get on with it and deal with the matter in hand. And I've met a lot of very, very amazing people. So, and I'm just like, wow. Oh my gosh. And they're so nice,
I think it's really like, because I had a chat yesterday with some of the junior lawyers in our business, and we were talking about networking. And they were giving each other tips, which was really nice. They were giving each other tips about what to do when you walk into a room and you don't know anybody. And one of them said, I used to be terrified of networking. And now I walk into the room and I just tell myself as I walk in, every single person in here, if I prick them, they'll bleed.
That's one way of looking at it.
She's like, we are all the same underneath.
Yeah.
And I think it is very easy sometimes to become, and I've had a few moments like that where I've become a bit sort of starstruck, and it's not necessarily imposter syndrome, but it's just a bit of a sort of, look at this. But that's absolutely the right attitude, isn't it? That you're all human.
Yeah.
We're all human. We've all got something to contribute.
Absolutely.
We can be stronger if we do it all together.
Absolutely.
From different perspectives.
100%. And to pick up on that point, I think networking is key. I don't think it matters what you're doing. I don't care what age you're at, right? I don't care if it's for a business purpose or any purpose. Networking is absolutely key. It is about who you know and who knows you. And what you're known for as well. So make sure you're right. So make sure, don't walk around and prick anyone out because I don't like it. But networking is so important, because when you do want to get something done, you want to be able to use your network, shape the network and find out who can help me.
Phone a friend.
Yeah, phone a friend. Who can give me this knowledge? I was looking into something recently and I sort of went through one of my WhatsApp groups and went, I think they'll be useful. And so literally sent them a little text. I'm sorry, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. And that ended up as a conversation that was totally on point, hour and a half. And I was like, wow, that's the power of the network, right? So I think networking is a really, really important skill. And just remember, like we said, we've all got experiences to bring.
Yeah.
And we're all special, we're all worthy. So never get starstruck, albeit I did get starstruck a little while ago. And I've been reading one of these surveys, and then I was introduced to this person, and then I suddenly realised they'd written the foreword, complete with picture. I'm like, and I had to sort of kind of grab myself. And I know I couldn't even say it because I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm stalking them or something.
So you've got a very busy professional life. You've got all of these things going on. Do you have any time to do things just for Nicolina?
I watch Netflix. I love Netflix, and I love The Traitors on BBC iPlayer. I love it. To be honest, I wouldn't do what I do if I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
So to a large extent, even things like running my group, setting up the next webinar, etc., I do kind of see that as fun, and I do enjoy doing it. So other than that, I like to travel when I can. Give me a Caribbean beach any day of the week, I'm there. Every day of the week, I'm there. But yeah, I can't say that I do much more than that.
So Caribbean would be your sort of favourite destination?
Oh, yeah.
What is it about the Caribbean?
It's hot. Right? It's hot. England is not hot, right? Guaranteed sunshine, great people, great food, great sea. Done. Done.
And you talked a bit about your parents and what a huge influence they'd been on you, and how you've shaped your life around some of the things that they taught you. How has that influenced how you have parented your children?
Oh my days. My children. I have 2 boys. They are adorable. They're both teenagers. I think one of the points was my parents never told me what to do. They gave some suggestions as to what they thought I might be good at, but they let me live my life. And certainly even in some of the roles that I do now, they don't even understand. Well, Dad certainly doesn't understand. Mum didn't even have a clue as to what I was doing. But they've always just said, be the best that you can be, or whatever you choose to do. It's your life and it's your life journey. So I have, on the one hand, my eldest is a bit of a philosopher. So he's just started at uni, awfully clever. Somebody who can write an essay whilst having a conversation with you. That's really disconcerting. And then my youngest, he's a creative. So ever since he was quite young, he always wanted to do art. And he's a black boy, right? And he wants to do art. And it's like, not a problem. You will go and do art. So he did art, and then he moved into digital art. And then he managed to get into the Brit School at 14 to do interactive digital design, which is what he's doing now. And I'm so proud of him. So I think that's probably what I've brought. That's their influence, is that just do you, be you, do what you do best, and just go for it. Absolutely go for it. And so seeing them both go in, totally different directions makes me very happy. Their values are in place. They are very polite, very nice people, very law-abiding. And I'm like, great. And you're both 6 foot and you look amazing. Wonderful. Wonderful. So I think that's a key thing. And for them to have the confidence as well that it's okay to be you. So even though I'm a lawyer, I'm not telling you to be a lawyer. If you want to be a lawyer, well, good luck to you. Off you go. But, it really is up to them just to be the best that they can be.
And what about the future for you? Where would you see yourself in, say, 5 years' time?
Oh, gosh, good question. Hopefully sitting more on a Caribbean beach. That's really important to me. Definitely more of a portfolio career. Definitely. I think there's so many different opportunities out there at the senior end, and I like to go and one thing leads to another and then it leads to another. I love that variety in respect of a portfolio career. So I think probably that.
And obviously this podcast is called Fear Less, Do More. What would you like to be doing more of in the future?
More inspiring people to go out and just do their best and be their best, and just opening up doors of possibility. Because sometimes, we don't know what we don't know. But, if I've been through an experience that I think can positively help you in your life, then it's like, hey, I'll tell you about it. Do this, try that. Have you considered that? And just opening up those doors of possibility. So a lot of what I do is just about inspiring people just to be the best they can be. That's it.
Well, that's a lovely place to end, and I'm sure people who listen to this will feel energised and inspired by your story and your journey.
And thank you very much for inviting me.
Well,
It's been wonderful.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed that episode of our podcast, Fear Less, Do More. If you did, then please follow or subscribe. If you enjoyed what we talked about in this episode, then you might enjoy this one here, which is also linked in the show notes. Thanks for listening.